Hey everyone, and welcome back to my video. My name is Sharita, and on my channel I make funny videos, funny skits, and then I just also talk about some things in life that you may find interesting. So if you haven't already, I just made a video about me reflecting on how I moved out of state with my son almost 4 years ago. And in this video, I'm going to talk to you guys about some of the challenges that I faced over the past 4 years. So first, let me start by saying one of my biggest fears about moving out of state was becoming homeless. Now, y'all, I love Steve Harvey, right? So I listened to some of his videos, his motivational videos and his speeches. And he talks about, chasing his dream. And then he talks about how he became homeless. And I'm like, okay, I'm all for going for the dream, believing in myself, but homeless, sleeping in the car, that's where I draw the line. I'm not cut from that cloth. That's not for me. So I was like, I don't want to move and then become homeless. But y'all, that did not happen. I did not become homeless, but some other fears definitely came to pass. But let me tell you, it still worked out. So I'm going to go through my timeline for you guys. So again, I moved from Indiana to Georgia back in July of 2017. So when I moved in 2017, I had saved up enough money for about 3 months or so, which worked out perfectly because I ended up finding a job in October of 2017. Let me tell you, I was so happy. And the reason I was so happy is because before I moved, there were so many people who were very hesitant and not really supportive. And I remember one person saying to me, well, if you don't make it or if things don't work out, don't be afraid to come back home. Good advice, yes, but the goal was to not come back home. The goal was to make it. So after 3 months after I found this job, I was like, girl, Sharita, you made it. You are not going back home. So I get this new job. It was for like a tax advisory company. And then I think by January, I was promoted to team lead, making more money. And I was like, look at God. Right. Then what happened was things are going great. I'm looking into moving out of my sister's place. I'm looking into apartments. But then, y'all, apartments, then I ran into, you got to make 3 times the rent. I was making money, but not enough, apparently, to make 3 times the rent. Okay, so then I was like, okay, well, let me look into a tax credit apartment. So basically a tax credit apartment is, they do base your eligibility based off your income, but your rent is still at a set amount. So your rent amount, like housing and Section 8 like that, your rent amount isn't based on income. The rent amount is a set amount no matter what for everybody based on the bedroom size, the apartment size. But your eligibility is based on if you fall in between these income guidelines. So I made too much for a tax credit, but I did not make enough for 3 times the rent. So, okay, I'm still with my sister, sharing a bedroom with my son. Okay, so then what happens, I'm working from October to June, and then comes June, and I kind of had a funny feeling something was going on, like within the workplace, but I wasn't sure. And then one morning, y'all, they called me into the office and they were like, we have to let you go. We're going to lay you off and it's due to lack of work. So this was a startup company, right? So with the startup company, I don't know what was really going on with the business, but they weren't able to keep all their employees. So people were getting laid off and I was one of the first. So on my team, I'm working with another guy. So I'm thinking to myself, lay who off? Me? Who me? And they're like, yes, you. Couldn't be. Are you sure? Are are you sure you don't want to go get the other guy and lay him off and let me stay? Like, y'all, that's what I was thinking. Like, no, y'all got the wrong person. And I was just distraught because you know what came to my mind? The first thing that came to my mind was, if you don't make it, if things don't work out, don't be afraid to come back home. And I had already decided I do not want to go back home because I had already felt it so strongly that I needed to leave, you know, and that I really wanted to be somewhere else. So I was like, man, y'all, I took some days and I didn't tell anybody for a few days that I was laid off. I didn't even tell my sister that I was laid off because of course I'm paying some of the bills, you know what I mean? Because I live there, you know, I'm just telling her that I'm sick. I'm not going to work for 2 or 3 days. So I'm just like, I'm sick, you know? Because then it was like, oh man, what am I going to do? How am I going to tell my mom and my sister, the closest people to me? But yet, how am I going to explain this to my son? Because he's going to then wonder, hey, why are you home every day? Let me tell you, kids are smart. They know when things change. So then I'm laid off from sometime in June all the way to February. So what did I do? How did I still pay my bills? So I was able to get unemployment. It is not much, but I also didn't have a lot of bills. And then thankfully I had my mom. My mom also paid my sister the portion of the rent and the bills that I owed her. So for that, I was blessed. Let me tell you, that's what I tell you guys. Moving out of state as a single mom, it is hard. It is not easy, but it's been worth it. You know what I mean? You just gotta, if you can get help, get help. If you can get a roommate, get a roommate. Like, if you can make it work, then make it work. You just may have to be okay with being uncomfortable for a while until you get to where you're going, because you're starting over. You know what I mean? Like, you're rebuilding. Okay, so from June to February, I'm laid off, receiving unemployment. So then I find a job through a temp agency, and it's with a call center. I told myself once I left home, Indiana, I never wanted to do a call center again. I hate call centers. They're just too stressful, and I really don't like that type of work environment. So I took it anyway because I'm like, you know what? Like, the dollar amount is good, and I can just do this temporarily until I'm able to find another job. So I worked there. I was through a temp agency for like one of the big banks. I did that from February to June, but the challenge with that were the hours. I worked Monday, Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. It was still 40 hours a week, and I think I got Tuesday, Thursday off, but my hours were like from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. It was something like that, to where it was like really long hours. And what was happening was, so I'm doing that from February until June. So this is February, now we're in February of 2018. I'm sorry, y'all, June of 2018. So now my son is in school, and I'm working these hours during the school week and on the weekends. It's like, I'm missing everything. Can't take him to school, can't pick him up from school, can't do school events. Of course, unless something falls on that Wednesday or Thursday that I had off. But then there goes the weekend. You know what I mean? Like, of course, I was with my sister, and she has kids, you know, and he had his niece or his cousins to play with. So of course, you know, that was great. But that was still not what I wanted. You know what I mean? I felt like I was not in control, and I just did not like that schedule. So I ended up quitting that job. Y'all, I just could not do it anymore. I was so stressed, and I had anxiety, and I hated going there every day. So I was like, you know what? I don't know what I'm going to do at this point. So y'all, look at how God works in mysterious ways. So I had a co-worker that I had met from the tax advisory company that I worked at in October, right? The one where they laid me off. I had met a co-worker from there, and she sent me a text message and she was like, hey, my job is hiring. What? So I end up not working again from June of 2018 till I'll say just beginning of September of 2018. And during that time, I didn't have no money. Do you know who helped me? My mother. Thanks be to God. She helped me. So I ended up getting an interview from the coworker that I had worked with at the place that laid me off. You see how sometimes things just fall into line and you don't know how they're going to work out? So she introduced me to this new job. I went and had my interview. So the man that I interviewed with, y'all, guess where he was from? My hometown. He was from my hometown in Indiana, but he was a lot older. I think he might be in his 60s. Y'all, he was from my hometown and we went to the same high school. Obviously not at the same time due to the age gap, but even then, that was a blessing. How that just set up and aligned. Do you think I got the job? Absolutely. You know what I mean? I think, of course, I definitely think I was qualified, but then I think there was also a bit of favor there, you know? So here I am again, feeling good, back on my feet again. Have gone through 2 jobs, one laid off, the other one I quit. Now I'm at another job and I like this job. It's one of these companies that never had a layoff before. So I feel great about that. Job security, good hours, this works for me. So, but what I had to do was this job was about an hour or so from my sister's house. So I had to commute. If you live in Georgia or you know anything about Atlanta traffic, it is terrible. So I commuted from February, I think, to March. Y'all, this is my notes. I commuted from, I'm sorry, not February. I commuted from when I started in September of 2018 to February of 2020. So that means I drove about an hour and a half each day there and back from September of 2018 to February of 2020. Let me tell you, coming from a small town to where I drove 10 to 15 minutes or 20 minutes to my job, from having to drive that every day there and back, y'all, it was hard. Not only that, it is dangerous. Y'all, my car insurance jumped up. They wanted to jump it up almost to close to $200 because the accident rate is that high here in Georgia. Thank you, Lord, that I did not get in any accidents. But still, that was a stressful commute. So thankfully, now I have a job. But one of the challenges is now when my son gets sick, how far away I am from him. You know, it takes me over an hour just to get there to pick him up. So, and there were things that happened concerning my child to where I had to leave work early and it just took me a long time to get home. So that stressed me out. So now I have a job. I'm no longer stressed about that, but the distance that I'm having to drive to get to and from work and home, that was beginning to stress me out. So I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? So I ended up moving. I was finally able to move, y'all. Now, did I finally make 3 times the rent? No, I did not. So how did I move into my first apartment? I needed a cosigner. I had to have somebody co-sign for me because I did not make 3 times the rent. So let me just say this, side note. Again, single parenting is hard. And sometimes you may not be able to do it by yourself. So that's why, you guys, character and being trustworthy is so important, because if people know that they can trust you, they will absolutely help you, even if they don't want to. You know, my cosigner really was not big on wanting to cosign for me, but I had a history with this person of having great character and always doing things that I was supposed to do. So they knew that no matter what, unless God forbid I died, that I was going to make sure that my bills and things were paid on time. So basically, if you have a cosigner, that means if you do not pay your rent or any bills, all of those expenses will fall onto them. That's a huge responsibility and burden to leave somebody with. So please, y'all, by all means, be trustworthy, because we're all going to need help someday, some point in time. Whether you're a single parent or not, you're going to need help, and your character speaks loudly. Your character speaks louder than words, louder than the gift of gab. So I moved into my first apartment, the first apartment I've ever lived in, ever. And I'm like, yes. So I rolled my son into a new school. Y'all, guess what happened? About a month later, COVID. And when COVID happened, guess who got furloughed from their new job? Me. I was like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, my cosigner. What am I going to do? You know what? I was like, you know what? I'll work at Kroger. The grocery stores are still open. I'll work at Kroger. I'll work at Publix, Walmart. All of these places are just right around for me. I was like, you know what? If that's what I got to do, then that's what I've got to do. Again, in a position that I had, and something's happening that I have no control over. But thankfully, for those of you guys who were furloughed, the government came through with a nice chunk of money. So that worked out for me. I was able to still pay my bills on my own, and I was blessed. So it happened, but things still worked out for me. But in the moment, I didn't know. I did not know how things were going to work out. I just knew that it was time for me to leave my sister's house, because I knew I was probably going to be at this job for a while, and I couldn't continue to commute and being away from my son like that, and not being able to get to him in a timely manner when things happened. So I needed to move. That was not an option. I knew I needed to move. So why is this happening now? Furloughed, I just moved.